Election night 1972. Richard Nixon wins the presidential election. The Republican Party gained 12 seats in the House of Representatives but failed to regain the majority. Senate Democrats keep control of the Senate. Early in the morning of November 8, 1972, President Nixon spoke to a campaign crowd following his sweeping victory after his Democratic opponent, George McGovern, had conceded the election by telegram.
All of you should know that one who stands in this position with 4 years ahead must think of what he wants for those 4 years, and we want, of course, many things. We want to do the very best job we can for all the country, for all people in our society. We want to have in mind, too, the fact that in this election, it was very unusual in another respect. It was not region against region. It was not one age group against another age group. It was not party against party. I think we can be proud of the fact that as we look at our majority, which is a very large majority, it comes from all of America. Let us remember that in these next 4 years, we're not going to work for one group against another. We are dedicated to work for all Americans to make this a greater country. To those millions of Democrats and independents who supported us, as well as, of course, to the Republicans who supported us in overwhelming numbers, you have our deep appreciation. To all those who worked so hard, our appreciation. I'll never be able to thank all of you personally, not even get all the letters out that I would like. But I know what you did, and I know how much you contributed. I would simply like to leave one final thought with you, perhaps in a personal sense. No one knows before the votes are counted how it's going to come out. No one really would have predicted after our convention that we were going to win this kind of a victory. And now at the present time, I notice some of the commentators are referring to the fact that it may be the greatest victory in American political history. Let me tell you, I have two reactions to that. Of course, it's great on election night to think that we won a victory, but this will be a great victory depending upon what we do with it. In other words, we win elections not simply for the purpose of beating the other party or the other person, but to get the opportunity to do good things for our country. And the next 4 years will be the time that we will try to make ourselves worthy of this victory.
Coming up, President Nixon's calls with White House staff about his landslide victory and changes to the upcoming second term of his administration.
Good evening. This was the day that comes every 4 years when the people of the United States choose one man to wield the greatest power given to any world leader. And it appears at this hour that they turned out in record numbers to choose today the next president of the United States. Despite rain over much of the nation, state after state reported long lines at the polls, some places so long that voting hours were being extended. The report seemed to put into doubt early on this election day at least one prediction of pollsters and pundits that there was widespread apathy over this year's election. Both Republican and Democratic leaders saw in these large turnouts hopes for their side. Republican National Chairman Robert Dole said that traditionally Republican areas of New Jersey and Connecticut were voting particularly heavily. Senator McGovern's chief advisors noted a very heavy vote in Democratic areas, particularly black, blue-collar, and student precincts. Just a scattering of precincts have been counted at this point, but the figures are: President Nixon, 218,000 votes. Senator McGovern, 115,000. That would be 65% for the president and 34% for Senator McGovern, and that's with less than 1% of the nation's precincts counted. But CBS News can estimate now, on the basis of its vote profile analysis, that in Kentucky, where enough of our sample precincts now have been counted, will go to President Nixon. His vote will be about 61% of the total when all the votes have been counted, we estimate, to McGovern's 39%. The first vote to fall to first state to fall to President Nixon in this election night. We'll be back in a minute with more on the election story.
That's how CBS News anchor Walter Cronkite started election coverage on the night of November 7, 1972. While network newsrooms announced the night's results, President Nixon called his special counsel, Charles Colson. The two discussed the early results in crucial House and Senate races.
Hello. Well, congratulations, Mr. President. Well, what's it look like at the 8 o'clock reading? Looks to me like a very big landslide. Just about, I think we're going to make honest men out of the pollsters. Where's it? Give me a quick rundown on this. Well, they're projected Virginia at 70%. They projected Kentucky with almost all of the votes in now at 65%. What about none? Is he out, or none is down by about 8,000 votes with 77% of the votes in? He could still win it, couldn't he? You know, we don't know where the votes, where the precincts are that are not being counted if they're coming from Republican areas. I understand. I heard that David's been reporting to me, said that apparently Thompson didn't make it. Thompson looks like he's down. How'd we do in Georgia? Oh, Jesus. Well, the last figure, let's see, 77%. You're just overwhelming in the South. Obviously, man, it's very, very heavy. About what we expected. About what we expected in the border states. They're projecting Ohio at 57, 58%. They've already called it for us. We've been called West Virginia for us. NBC's projection there is 58%. If you're 58% in West Virginia, you're going to be 60 in the nation. NBC privately, I have Kevin Phillips, who's been telling me, here's now none is 25,000 down with 87% of the precincts in. Looks like the Senate's gone, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. Well, we did our best. Thank God we went in there. We may have this fellow Scott in. He has a slight lead. Yeah, he's got a slight lead with a small number of precincts in, but he's been coming on. I've been getting reports from Jack Marsh and others over the last week that he was. And there are good reports on Helms that he may take it. Just a smattering of votes in so far, but the reports have been very good. He's ahead on a few votes that are in, but that's just nothing. I mean, just a couple of percent. But anything in Illinois yet? Well, NBC has called it for you, but they only have some Chicago precincts in, and not enough to tell you what the state is going to be. They've called us winning it. In fact, NBC has called us winning the call at 7:05. Not only called the election for us, but called it a landslide. And Phillips says that they are internally at NBC on the Scammon precinct analysis. They are calling it. They think it's going to be right around 60. Could go over 60 nationally. Now they don't have enough yet from the Northeast or the West, but you've got the South is very heavy. So that South is very heavy. Now there's West Virginia. ABC's projecting it at 60%, but Phillips says 58. Ohio they've called at 57, although we're running 2-1 there. On the national vote, it's running 67-32 percent with 4 million, almost 4 million votes in. But it's running very consistently 67-32, and that's mostly South. Well, you've got Indiana in there. What's it show? Let me see. Indiana, we did handsomely. I knew it would be good. It has to be good. They're projecting 64 to 65% win, and you've carried the governor in on your coattails. It was not expected to win. If you remember, he's running against his name, the former Governor Welsh. Welsh, who's was a very popular Democratic governor, and so you've carried the governor in Indiana, and 7% of the precincts in. You look like you're carrying. It'd be interesting to see how Illinois comes out. It'd be nice if we could do a little better than Percy there. Oh boy, would I love to. In the first very early returns, matter of fact, they came on so damn fast I didn't get him down. Percy was running just a little bit ahead of us. I think we're going to run better than Percy. The Democrats for Nixon ran a fabulous ad out there yesterday, which said Democrats, before you engage your ballot, before you how did they say it? I've forgotten how they said it. report and others were that we were doing extremely well in some of the Cook County precincts. So we just may surprise.
Doesn't make any difference, just so we do it. What about any northeastern state, Maine, Vermont, any of those?
Vermont, they've called with 70%, which is just what our polls showed. New Hampshire, they've called, and
what about Powell?
Running slightly behind on the first returns that I saw, but only Concord, New Hampshire was in.
That's bad for him.
Yes, it is.
No, Concord's a bad area for him.
That's right. Concord's a liberal area, and that shows the independent Republican winning the governorship. If you project it, it's too early to tell in New Hampshire. We will have. We should start getting Connecticut. We'll get Connecticut at 8:30. Connecticut will tell us what the Northeast is, and I think you can. I think once we have
bigger Connecticut, 55-45 or a little better.
We'll do better than that.
Now, I noticed one of the networks said 55-45. Somebody told me, but I thought, good God, we do a little better than that in Connecticut.
No, we'll do better than that in Connecticut. We'll do, I would say, very close to. We should do close to 60 in Connecticut. We should be 58 to 60. And if we are, then I think you can pretty well figure. And if Illinois holds around 60-40 or 58, Ohio at 57, then you've got 60% nationally. We'll make honest men out of the pollsters. One hell of a landslide, Mr. President. I give them.
How about Massachusetts? Got that yet?
No, the polls just closed there at 8, and the only returns we'll have will be city machines. There aren't many machines out against us, of course. Yeah, but we can pretty well project from those. I think I'll be able to get us a fairly accurate.
Well, I say we got to lose one. Let's lose that one.
Yeah, that's the best one to go.
Nothing from Wisconsin yet.
They've got Illinois. No, nothing from Wisconsin. They're projecting Illinois, but only on the basis of 20,000 votes, and that isn't enough to give us a margin. Well, Jesus. CBS's estimate is 62% for us in Illinois, and
well, then you got Wisconsin.
Oh, hell yes.
If you're anywhere near 60%.
No, they're projecting Percy at 60%. By God, isn't that great? I thought I've had two sneaky hunches in this campaign. One is that we were going to pull this jackass Scott in Virginia, and the other is we'd run ahead of Percy.
But if we could get Scott and Helms and not lose none, goddamn, in Kentucky, I don't know. Do you think he's gone?
I would have to say so, yes, sir. It's a damn shame, because that's one that they're projecting North Carolina. No, they're not projecting it. Galifianakis is ahead slightly, but there's no projection on it. You can't. It's awful.
How does it show us in North Carolina?
Oh, they've already given it to us. But how percentage-wise, I think it was 60. Let's see. I made a note of that one. 60s, high 60s. All right. Florida, they projected us at 69. Georgia at 77.
What was the trouble with Thompson? I guess that mail thing sort of killed him, huh?
Well, I think the mail thing was very bad for him, Mr. President. I think he's not the brightest guy in the world. Of course, a lot of those candidates aren't, unfortunately. But also,
we're not going to worry about the Senate, will we? Oh, we're going to pick up New Mexico. I think we'll pick up Bartlett. We'll get 2 out there.
If you get 2 out there, you get, if we hold,
of course, we lose none. That's the problem.
Chafee, I don't think we're going to be able to hold him.
You don't really?
No, sir.
What? Have you had a late poll?
No. The last poll I had was the middle of last week, but just knowing the nature of that state and the advantage that
we'd be lucky to hold the Senate where we are, then.
I would. Well,
no. That's a gain.
No, we could pick up a couple. We may have some surprises in here. It's hard. It's hard to.
We're picking up some House seats here and there. I noticed. One in Indiana, one in Tennessee.
Yeah, I think we got one in Kentucky. I believe we had one in Kentucky. I think we'll pick up in the South. We should pick up 8 or 10 in the 10 or 12 in the South. Well, no, running this strong, God will do better than that. You pick up quite a few in Alabama, should.
You might pick up a couple in Florida.
Yeah, 2 or 3. Oh, yes, there are 5 new seats.
1 or 2 in Mississippi.
I would say at least 2 in Mississippi. We'll pick up 1 in Louisiana. I think that fellow Crean may pull it through. So we could pick up a good batch
Chafee loses, if of course Thompson is down. Helms still got a chance.
Oh yes, Helms. They've only 2% of the precincts in North Carolina. I wouldn't try to call Helms at this point.
You never can tell about Kentucky. It is a way I remember with Houston Martin on occasion. He runs way behind them, and he comes in the end.
Yeah, I remember.
Those eastern counties are all ours.
Yeah, and they come in the last. That's right. We might that could be pulled through. That'd be the only. Let's see, Griffin and our fellow in South Dakota.
I think Griffin will win.
Oh, Griffin will win. Oh, hell yes.
But South Dakota, well, it's a long shot.
Could lose that. That would be down 2 and up 4. So we'd have if Bartlett and Domenici come in, and Scott wins.
But if you get Domenici, and if you get you've got to win Scott, you got to win Domenici, and you got to win Bartlett. That's 3, and you're down South Dakota, and that's it.
Oh, and Kentucky
too. Well, that's 1 up.
1 up, and maybe if we then pull in Helms, that gives us 2 up.
Helms or Chafee.
Yeah, I'm just guessing on Chafee. I don't know. Chafee could win, and DeSimone, I'm sure will win. That gives us a pull.
Right.
We've elected the Republican candidate for governor in Vermont, who was hanging at your coattails like crazy. We picked up a House seat in Maine, apparently.
Is Maine in? Do we have that projection yet?
No, sir. But they told me when I talked to them up there today in Bangor that this young Bangor Mayor Cohen, bright young Jewish fellow.
Our man?
He'll win. Yeah, apparently he's doing good. They were projecting him. I mean, they were predicting up there that he'd win it quite handily. And Margaret, they thought would just squeak it out. They think that she's going to barely make it. The poll that you saw was of only certain counties in the eastern part of the state, and they think she'll make it by a close one. But
well, wait till we get Connecticut. I figure Connecticut 80,000, and that's damn good.
Well,
and 80,000, is a landslide, and that'll pick us up 2 or 3 there, won't it?
It'll pick us up to 80,000. Well, at all? I think so. But we're going to do better than that. I think you've saved Connecticut. I don't know. Tommy Mescal's an awful good politician. I'd give us one.
Another place where we could pick some up in New Jersey if we get enough of a swing.
Yeah, exactly. There are 3. Matter of fact, there are 3 seats there that could go up. We could pick up 1 or 2 close ones in Pennsylvania, as I recall looking at. We got a couple of possibilities in New York. So we may do very well in the House. Well, we'll see. But it's certainly from your standpoint.
What is your feeling that if we don't win the House and the Senate, I suppose that's the way they'll piss on the damn thing?
Well, no, I don't think so. That it's all been discounted. I mean, I haven't seen anyone predict us winning the Senate or the House. I've said we had a fight for the Senate, and maybe could do it. They've in the House said no chance at all.
That's right.
So no one's really predicted that. Also, we've
got Jerry Ford's little deal that might help. You think?
Oh, hell yes.
If he gets those 10 swingers.
Yeah, that's if we get within 12, then he's got something he can work with. We might bring the House over. I think they've discounted it also in a sense, Mr. President, that they've talked about nothing but ticket splitting. That's been the big thing. And
well, anyway, we'll wait and see.
Looks like a great night coming.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
President Nixon and Special Counsel Charles Colson on the evening of November 7, 1972. As the evening progressed, newsrooms reported on both the Senate and House races as control of Congress remained in flux. Here's a report from ABC News.
We've neglected the House of Representatives tonight because it's been hard to get all those results in between the results of the Senate races and the presidential contest. Let's take a look at the House board now. So far, the Democrats have elected 136 members to the House. 435 is the total. The Republicans have elected 94. The Republicans have won a net gain of 3.
We now have another major projection in the presidential race, Howard. ABC News will project that President Nixon will take New York, which is a major state to take, and always hard for a Republican, and requires him to run well in New York City, what he's been doing. So far, there's very little of the popular vote reported, but our key precincts indicate that he will take it. He will win New York.
That's 41 more
41
electoral
more.
votes. The second most populous state in the Union. It used to be the first most populous. Well, we saw the House results a while ago. Let's take a look at how the Senate looks now so far tonight. The Senate races. The Democrats have won 6. The Republicans have won 5. The Democrats are the only ones who've gained a seat they did not have before. We'd like to take a look at 2 races that are very close and that deserve watching. We haven't been able to declare because they've been too close. The state of Delaware, first of all, in the Senate race there, the incumbent Senator Caleb Boggs is running a little behind a man named Joseph Biden, who is too young to go into the U.S. Senate. He won't be 30 until November the 20th. Boggs is lagging behind Biden.
Senate candidate Joe Biden on his way to winning his first of 6 terms in the U.S. Senate. Later that evening, President Nixon continued his calls about election results with his White House Chief of Staff, Bob Haldeman.
Okay, what's the present situation now? Well, you want a rundown? Just going through it, everybody's conceded Alabama, obviously. I'm not interested in the states. I meant the percentages. Well, they haven't. They're still. Oh, they're not getting those. I saw on the television the rundown of states. Yeah. Okay. Their percentages are running high. Yeah. I mean, what about the North? What about Connecticut? Has it come in? Yeah, Connecticut. CBS is projecting at 60%. That's good. Yeah. And what's the margin? Like Arkansas, they're projecting at 65. Mm-hmm. Delaware at 58, which is a little low. Well, it's a tougher state. Florida, one of them's got it at 75, and the other at 69. Mm-hmm. Georgia at 77. Mm-hmm. Illinois, yeah, CBS at 62%. ABC much earlier at 55. So there's a variation. Yeah, it's more close to 60 in my opinion. Indiana, one has 65, 164, and 167. So it's in that range. Yeah. Kansas, 63 and 69. Ohio is 58 on NBC and 60 on CBS. The interesting one is Pennsylvania. Yeah. 61% on NBC and 62% on CBS. Great. New York. What's New York? No projection on New York yet. Oh, I thought they projected it. Somebody said that Tricia said they conceded it. They have, but they haven't run a projection. At least I don't have one. Yeah, but Pennsylvania 60, great. Yeah. And New Jersey, was 60, wasn't it? New Jersey, one of them is 62 and the other's 56. Huh. Well, that's too far apart, but still, when they run these early projections, to see they're running it on 10-15% of the price. Right. Just trying to each beat the other, sure. Tennessee is running 66, 68, 71. Yeah. Texas 73% on NBC. Yeah. Vermont is 70% on Oklahoma. Oklahoma is no projection except that CBS gives it to you, but no figure yet. Yeah. Now on the Senate things, apparently Senate they're giving it to Sparkman at 60% in Alabama. Right. McClellan, of course, at 62. Mm-hmm. Eastland. In Georgia, Eastland 67. He's not that huge. Yeah, that's still pretty huge. They're giving Griffin, Michigan at 54. What do they give? They give Michigan to us then, don't they? Yeah, let me see what we've got now. Well, if he's got 54, what the hell we got it too? 58 they show for us. They do? On Michigan, yep. That's something. And he says New Jersey was 68. Yeah, what about Scott? Scott in Virginia, they haven't projected yet. Well, what I'd seen earlier indicated he looked pretty good. He does look good. What about, of course, Baker won with 62%. Thurman was 68%. Yeah. What is the situation? Is none gone? Yes, definitely. There's no way to Kentucky. And he says he's going to lose by 25,000. Well, I'm glad we tried it anyway. Of course, they'll say the coattails didn't work, but we gave it everything we had, didn't we? Yep. Right. Brooks won by 68%. Right. Pearson by 71. What about West Powell? 60. Powell's running ahead at the moment. They haven't run a projection, though. That might be a sleeper. He might win it. Fletcher Thompson's lost. I knew that. Even up race, though, 50%. So it was damn close. Is he dead lost, though, for sure? That's NBC projects him lost, and one of the others projected him lost at 60%, but NBC says 50%, but 58.
Yeah, I know, that's good.
And Virginia at 70.
Boy.
And Maryland 62.
You know, with these percentages, it's I think they may go over 60%.
I think so.
Nationally, they could. Of course, of course, California will pull it down some, but not.
Well, CBS has changed their national prediction now. They predict 66%. And that's their projection for the result, and that's based on
national. They don't include any California yet.
No, but they go on the basis of that. That's 16%.
NBC was projecting
2 to 1, which is the same.
No, NBC was 60 when I heard them, Chancellor.
Well, that was at 8:30, but at 9:10 they projected at 2 to 1.
Which we may be going over then the amount, yeah. What about the size of the vote? I started Brinkley. Brinkley came on and said it's much lower than was anticipated. He said 70. He said they projected 80, and it's only going to be 76. But
no, our last thing was that it would be about 87.
Good. I hope that proves him wrong.
So let me screw Brinkley again, I hope.
Right.
Massachusetts, one of them's giving to him.
They've given it to him already.
Yeah, NBC. Yeah, no figure. Just a projection that he's won it.
Yeah. Well, it's anticipated.
And Missouri, they give us at 59.
Yeah. Well, with these figures, the only thing really left now to ask about is California and Oregon that we have outstanding. Wisconsin, California, and Oregon.
Right.
But we should have Wisconsin in at this time. That's curious. We don't have anything on that.
Haven't run anything on Wisconsin. Washington, we won't get for a while.
No, of course, none of those. But and
New York. That's
New York. Well, they'll project that a little later. Of the way New Jersey and Connecticut are going, and Connecticut 60-40.
Connecticut is right 60 on CBS. So it's
that's fine. Well, we'll just hope that maybe Domenici and Bartlett can pull through. That'll with losing none. What about Chafee? Have you heard about that?
Nope.
Haven't heard about Rhode Island yet.
Nope.
I would think that some of our boys, the Dent types, could check Rhode Island and make a final check on Georgia, don't you think?
Right.
And in view of these things, do they have any dope in any of the Senate races in New Jersey and things like that? Come on in.
Yeah, the Senate in New Jersey, they've given to Case.
I knew about that. I meant the congressional races in New Jersey and Connecticut.
I don't have a congressional rundown. They picked up a couple.
I know they picked up
point out districts here and there, but I don't know that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, why don't you make a check have somebody there, one of the Peter types, check with on Wisconsin, and then check the Senate race in New Hampshire and the Senate race in Colson could do that. He ought to check New Hampshire, and he also ought to check Massachusetts and see what the hell the vote is there.
Okay.
And we ought to know about New Hampshire, Powell and Chafee, right?
Right.
And Dewey Bartlett, right? That's about all the rest there is to know, isn't there? Texas is holding up. The network's playing it straight.
Yep.
Playing it fair.
Pretty much so, yeah. I haven't picked up a lot of.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I would say they are. They're running a lot of interview stuff. They've had Finch and McGregor, all of our crew.
Right. Good. Okay. Checks on.
President Nixon and White House Chief of Staff Bob Haldeman from November 7, 1972. Again, President Nixon called on his special counsel Charles Colson. The two began their conversation on the numbers coming out of Massachusetts.
Hello? Oh, it's looking like it, Mr. President. I guess you lose your job. You lost Massachusetts. I hope my job doesn't depend on that. What did finally end up? Well, it hasn't. I just talked to 54, that isn't too bad. 46? No, that's what they're talking about, 54, 46. But the only thing they've got in is Suffolk County, and it's not enough to tell the state. We're doing well in some blue-collar areas that we weren't expected to. Right. What in Connecticut, 60-40 finally? Well, I just talked to Tommy Musko, and he says it's going to hit 60 when they get them all counted, which will be over 200,000. that he predicted. And it looks like they're saving one congressman. It looks like, or maybe two.
How do they do that? Well, it's
Amazing.
the coattail thing just isn't working, is it?
Well, it's the penance vote, too, Mr. President. Don't overlook that.
New Jersey, we must have picked up a House seat or so.
Oh, we have to have picked, I haven't seen any of the results, but we have to have picked
62 there. What is it in the New York figure you don't have yet?
Well, the New York, yes, there are two projections. NBC is projected on New York 57%, but CBS has predicted 61, so it's awful early, though. It's like trying to call any of those northern states. The penance vote is, I think is really, there's a lot of truth to it. I just talked to Herb D. Simone, and he said he's going to win, but they've had the heaviest turnout ever in Rhode Island. And
what about Chafee?
He said, well, there's no votes reported yet in Rhode Island, but he thinks Chafee is absolutely 50-50. He said he couldn't dare call it.
He thought if we can just hold that one, that'd be great.
Well,
we do. We still got a chance to come pretty close in that Senate.
With Harry Byrd.
Helms, we still got a chance there.
Not enough of North Carolina in the tail, but my God, you're running so strong.
Scott has a chance, I understand.
Scott's ahead. Scott's running very strong.
Yeah.
The only other sleeper, of course, is Boggs in Delaware, who's
is he behind?
He's running 50-50, and that's scary.
We're carrying it.
58%. Yep. Michigan is the starter. Oh my God, they're projecting us at 58% in Michigan.
That last minute stuff may have helped a bit there.
I think that bussing ad. They called me and yesterday. Let's see, what day is today? Tuesday. They called me yesterday and said that ad was just a sucker. And so I think it has helped. And I think the Wallace are sending the Wallace team out.
We went in there, so we've done that. Yeah, the Wallace team.
Right. It's
and Illinois. They don't have a final on that yet, do they?
Well, I just talked to Bradshaw, and he talks to the Daily people. And they figure we're going to take 59%. We're going to win the city of Chicago, which means that
we might get 60 then.
The Daily people are figuring 59. Percy will run behind us.
Really?
We'll run ahead of Percy. Ogilvy we've pulled in clearly on our coattails because
Ogilvy's in?
Yep. But they figure it, but clearly on our coattails. This is the interesting thing. Ogilvy is doing miserable downstate. But because you're carrying the city of Chicago, you're pulling him in with you. And remember,
I must say we got Arch Moore in too.
Arch Moore, that's a marvelous one to have in. God, that's a good one. Because
just sorry about Louis Nunn. What do you think happened there?
Well, when he was governor, apparently he put the sales tax in, and this fellow Huddleston, when he was majority leader, took it out. So repealed it for food. Apparently that was a popular thing for him to do. Here's the Delaware thing with 60% in. We're 300 votes. Boggs is 300 votes behind. So
he'll carry it, though.
I think he'll come through.
But we're ahead, aren't we?
58% of we're winning that state by 58%.
We just got to carry that one.
I would think we would, Mr. President.
300 votes behind, Boggs is. Oh, boy.
With almost 60% of the vote in, so that's a tough one.
But we knew it was tough. But what else could we have done there?
Not a damn thing.
Sent Agnew in. I should have.
No.
I called him.
Herb D. Simone said that if
he'll catch some hell for not going in and campaigning every state, but what good would it have done? Look at the ones we did go in. It didn't help in Kentucky.
Doesn't make that much. It really doesn't make that much difference. You've got the thing that I think will be written about this election is that your enormous landslide. People are learning how to split ballots, and if a Democrat comes out and votes Republican at the head of the ticket, he may feel, well, I got to go back to my party loyalty as I go down the ticket, and that has an impact. That's obvious what's happening. Can McGovern say anything yet? Jean Westwood did. She said, she said that too early to say. No, she said poor Senator McGovern was struggling uphill all the time. It's very hard to beat. It's very hard to beat an incumbent. God, what an incredible voice she has. But it's obvious they're licked. Texas Tower's in 58%. Tower? Yes, sir. He was swine. And oh Christ. And it looks like we will carry the state with anywhere between 68 and 70%, according to the two network projections. I think we're over 60 nationally now.
You're going to have to be unless New York and California pull it down.
Well, California is the only possibility of pulling that down.
You couldn't pull that down that much.
No, you can't. And especially we've got Michigan. I've heard nothing from Wisconsin.
Well, Wisconsin isn't enough votes to pull it down.
No.
And those mountain states, hell, we'll have those in the neighborhood of 65.
Well, you Oklahoma, they haven't called it yet, but you're taking 75% of the vote, that's a really good sized state. You go through the Kansas, Kansas was 76 now. I don't have the projection. It was 63% on the actual total, but we'll do better than that, I think.
Church is watching the networks, just to gig them in case they give us bad right?
He's monitoring all three of them tonight, yes, sir.
I understand they're doing fairly well, are they, the networks?
I don't think, well, I've been watching mainly NBC.
Brinkley was said once that the vote was very low, and that proved to be wrong. If I understand, it's over 80 million.
Yeah, and Chancellor said Johnson had the biggest landslide ever, which of course he did. And so they're usual inaccuracies. It's not much good to watch CBS because they really have some troubles with their labor unions. They're losing 3 or 4 million a day. It's very sad.
That's a shame.
I'm shedding a lot of tears for CBS. But now, as I look at each of these, Metzko, when I talked to him, he said it was just what he figured. He said, you've got the blue-collar Catholics, and he said they're over there with you, and he said just keep them. And Herb D. Simone said that he's convinced that your coming in has pulled him ahead. He's convinced he'll win because of your coming in.
We don't have a number on ourselves in Rhode Island, have we?
No, nothing's been counted up there. But he
thinks he's in.
He thinks he's going to make it, and he knows you are.
He thinks Chafee may.
And he said he would give Chafee 50-50. He said just so damn close he could really...
So we've got Chafee and Boggs, two real tough ones there.
Yeah, now Powell, I don't have the figures, but Powell had moved ahead in the last counting in New Hampshire, and that's on an actual count. Considering that the way that state reports, you're going to be getting Concord heavily at the outset, so that in the Concord area...
Where he ought to do well is in Manchester.
Yeah, well, he may... if he's ahead early in the evening, I would think he has a good shot at winning it. So we may pick one up in Powell.
Margaret?
Nothing from Maine yet. No, nothing from Maine yet. I haven't seen a thing on Maine. That's funny. I guess
nothing from that South Dakota senator yet?
Yeah, you've won South Dakota. No, you've won South Dakota.
Oh, I figured we would, yeah.
They've projected it. What was that? They project 55-45. I think it'll be better than that. The polls in Maine closed later.
We haven't heard about it there.
No, in fact, they've just started votes coming in from South Dakota. So we don't have...
I figure on the Senate then that we lose one in Kentucky, and we could conceivably lose one in South Dakota.
And conceivably Delaware.
And Delaware lose 3. We could pick up one in New Hampshire. We could pick up one in maybe in
Virginia. You're going to pick
Virginia, and we could pick up one in North Carolina still, right?
Yeah, North Carolina.
You could still pick up one in Rhode Island, and one in Oklahoma, and one in New Mexico.
That's right. There's 1, 2, 3. That we could gain 3. Well, then we may not lose Delaware. I may not lose South Dakota. Could gain 3. It's still could gain 3 to 5. Yeah. It doesn't look like it actually, in the sense though that I must say, in the sense that there's such ticket splitting. Yeah, I think that's a phenomenon.
Well, we'll see.
I think that's the phenomenon of the
South Dakota. Some way, I think he could make it. Some way.
He's an attractive fellow. He's been running a hell of a fine campaign. That's one that if we held that and picked up 2 of the others, we'd have in that case.
We need to hold that and get Bartlett and Domenici.
That's right.
I wonder if we'd gone to Louisville rather than Eastern Kentucky, if that would have done the trick for none. No, he was too far behind. He's 25,000 votes. It's nothing would have saved him.
I wouldn't think so. You know, there's another thing that you have to remember. I think at least when there's a big vote for the head of the ticket, which really is one hell of an endorsement of you. You bring out a lot of brass collar Democrats.
That's right.
And they vote for you.
We'll be ready, Christian. Okay.
They vote for you, and that's
ready. Okay. Yeah.
They vote for you, and that's then they go back to their party way. Plus apparently that tax issue is a killer on a governor or an ex-governor.
Sure is.
But I now think, Mr. President, unless there's some surprises, that you've got
we're holding. It looks now even the more conservative networks are projecting about 60, aren't they?
Yes, sir.
And some even projecting a little more than that.
Yeah, privately, Phillips tells me that then you can't go lower because the South is just we're up to around 70% in the South on the average, I guess. California then coming in at 55. What did it say? Can't overbalance that. No, can't. You'd still be at 60. Well, that's good. We'll know more in how long? About an hour? I would say it's 20 minutes to 10 now. 20 minutes to 10, yeah. I would say a good bit more than an hour. Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
President Nixon and Special Counsel Charles Colson on election night 1972. After 11 p.m. that evening, Democratic nominee for President George McGovern spoke from his campaign headquarters in South Dakota.
Thank you very much. We're here among my friends in South Dakota, where this campaign began almost 22 months ago. We now bring it to an end tonight, and I have just sent the following telegram to President Nixon. Congratulations on your victory. I hope that in the next 4 years you will lead us to a time of peace abroad and justice at home. You have my full support in such efforts. With best wishes to you and your gracious wife, Pat. Sincerely, George McGovern. The first presidential concession that I remember hearing was that of Adlai Stevenson in 1952. He recalled the old Lincoln story of the boy who had stubbed his toe in the dark, and when the lad was asked how it felt, he replied, "Well, it hurts too much to laugh, but I'm too old to cry." It does hurt all of us in this auditorium and many others across the country to lose, but we're not going to shed any tears tonight about the great joys that this campaign has brought to us over the past 2 years. All of the satisfaction and joy that we have found in these past 22 months are not going to be washed away with the tears and regrets of one night.
Democratic nominee George McGovern from election night 1972 announcing he had conceded the race to incumbent President Richard Nixon. After all the votes were counted, Senator McGovern carried only the District of Columbia and Massachusetts. Early in the morning of November 8th, President Nixon spoke with New York Republican Governor Nelson Rockefeller about his Democratic opponent George McGovern and the vote tally from New York State.
Mr. President. Hi, Nelson, how are you? You've done the impossible. I just got back from the Shore Motel, and they told me you called. Aren't you the nice? You know, it's so hard to get through those shouting crowds that I just didn't do it. But it was great, the whole thing. I can't tell you how much we owe. Well, I'll tell you, you did just what you said you'd do in New York. I'm your friend. How did it come out finally in New York? Well, the television now is saying 59. 59? Isn't that something? Well, listen, 59 in New York? Huh? This will be well over 1 million. Oh, gosh, yes. Let's see. That's terrific. Well, and you still got a good chance of carrying New York City. God, isn't that something? Unbelievable. Well, you may end up with 60 then if you carry the city. That's right, see. And they say 42% of the Jewish vote. Oh, my God. Well, I gave you credit for that. No, sir. I want to done the whole thing, and we're just here with you. But well, where'd I met me get you at home? Yeah, I'm just thrilled. I'll tell you, well, that's good. I was, had to wait around for McGovern to make a statement, so late. I mean, the darn network for conceding it at 7 o'clock. That's right. Oh, believe it. We've been watching it all right. Well, but I'll tell you, it's a great day. The only state now that we've lost is Massachusetts. And really, did you get Washington, D.C. too? Oh, no, we lost that, but I didn't count. Minnesota, there's some doubt about. We don't know, but suppose we get it. But that's quite something. Oh,
We couldn't do too well when tell me, did you by any chance, what'd you do in any of those house races, or do you know yet?
Oh, yes, we won. Pizer won. He knocked out Archer, which was good. Brownie Reed, unfortunately, beat out...
he did?
Gary. And Joe Boyd was beaten out on the island by Otis Pike.
Well,
we got Dow. We knocked out Dow.
Right.
So then the rest...
So it's a wash, huh?
Yeah. We got about two. Picked up two.
Picked up two. Oh, I see. Yeah. Well, that's great. That's great. Well, now, I'm going to Florida tomorrow for a week, and then we ought to have a little chat if you have time. What are you going to do?
I'm looking for... We're going to go out the country and go over the camp.
Great.
We'll be out in the country. And
well, you feel good, though, do you?
Oh,
you know, incidentally, wasn't that fellow unbelievably irresponsible in the last 2 days, those charges? Did you know, for your information, Henry may have told you, when I was on the airfield at North Carolina Saturday, we got a wire from the North Vietnamese. They've agreed to negotiate without conditions in 1 week. It's all done. We never said it, see. But, you know, that's what you have to... But did you ever see such an irresponsible campaign as this clown put on?
No, and of course his running mate wasn't anywhere.
But what a babbler.
Oh, my... But, you know, let me tell you, Mr. President, I saw your daughter, Tricia, in New York on the television, and they told her what McGovern had said, and this child was so marvelous because...
What'd she say?
It was your reaction, that she was so controlled, and she was quiet, and she said, well, freedom of speech is a great thing in this country. The pressure of the campaign, I just thought she was so great.
As a matter of fact, my family felt a little bit... They said, no, don't say anything nice about him. But as you noticed, I was very careful to say, look, everybody, you opponents and others, you all fought hard. Now let's get together. You got to be generous. Don't you think so?
Oh, yes. I think, Mr. President, this is the greatest thing, and I want to help you in any way I can in trying to do a job now. Domestic thing here.
Right, okay. I got your memo with all your crossovers.
I'll tell you, we're with you.
Okay.
We're with you.
Give my love to Happy.
You bet.
Bye.
Love to Pat.
Bye.
Thanks for calling.
President Nixon and New York Republican Governor Nelson Rockefeller in the early hours of November 8, 1972. Late that day, President Nixon went over presidential and congressional election night results with Republican strategist Harry Dent. The two broke down the numbers from races across the country.
Yes, sir. Well, you survived?
Yeah, you sure survived in good style, Mr. President.
Yeah, I just saw you were on television a lot last night. I didn't see it, but I read the news from you this morning.
Right.
Trying to interpret everything.
Well, Mr. President,
I must say, the Southerners came through in great style. Well, the whole country did, actually.
Yes, sir. On the Senate races, you know, you ended up with a net plus of 2 in the South.
Yeah.
And in the House races, I think we're going to end up with a net gain of about 5 or 6 in the South.
Yeah.
We won some, and all of those were your victories, Mr. President. Your coattail. Holzhauser won the governor's race.
Did he win?
Yes, sir. You did that. Everyone we won in the South was...
What happened to Fletcher Thompson? I was so surprised.
Mr. President, he's no candidate.
All right.
And the second thing was he abused that franking privilege.
Let me ask you something else.
Yes, sir.
I wonder, Harry, if really, speaking quite candidly, if whether that House campaign committee shouldn't have run better candidates in the South. Now, they knew damn well, you know, particularly when they saw McGovern about to get it. Yes, that good God, we could have, with the kind of sweet
Miller, too, has been, he's funny. He's a negative fellow. Yes, sir. Allen, maybe, I don't know. But how bad did he lose? By about 15 or 20,000, but that might have saved him. No one could figure that an incumbent could have lost with it. Oh, well, isn't it a possibility that some of them didn't hang closely enough, or did they? I don't know. Didn't use your situation enough, yes, sir. Remember, I kept saying the ego's got in the way, Mr. President. Huh? The ego's got in the way. What I mean is, as incumbents, they didn't want to think that they had to hang on to your coattails. Right. Yeah, and too late, they were saying they were all going to do it. Right, sir. Right. Margaret, that's simply age, wasn't it? Yes, sir. She shouldn't have tried it again. 74. Boggs is just too bad. Damn it, I suppose if I'd gone over there, maybe, well, we had Agnew in there right at the last, and, that's as much as we ever have done in the Eisenhower years. Right. To Delaware. But, Mr. President, where you went, though, where you went, you won, like you went to North Carolina. Yeah. You went to Except Kentucky, and the Rhode Island situation. How do you figure Kentucky? Louis non-raised taxes when he was governor there. And they just stuck with him. And then, too, Louis comes across as a crude, strong politician, not a statesman. Yeah. I think now in Rhode Island, I just have a feeling there the problem was Chief, he was a dove too long, that's what I think. I don't see how we ever stood a chance in Rhode Island, even for you to win there, frankly. I mean, I just never counted that as a... Well, as it turns out, apparently we finally won Minnesota, didn't we? Yes, sir. Is that the final count you got? Yes, sir. I thought we would. I mean, I thought even Hubert's last minute and Alaska came through. Right, sir. Yeah. Right, sir. In fact, the only one they got then was Massachusetts. The only one they got was Massachusetts. And Massachusetts deserved to be on the wrong side. Yeah, thank God. California haven't got the final return, but it's what, 55, 56 in that ballpark? Yes. Saying on television this morning that they think that you're going to end up with the bigger than Lyndon Johnson on the percentage, and that Alf Landon only picked up 8 electoral votes, whereby this guy got 17. Yeah. Well, on the percentage, I think it's going to be 62, don't you? What is it now? I think, and I hope it is. I don't know what the hell did Johnson have. He had 61.1. 61.1. Yeah. Of course, if we hadn't had that goddamn Schmitz in there, that's right, we'd be at 63. There are a million nuts in the country. A million nuts. I mean, there was no reason to vote for Schmitz. No, sir. Yeah, absolutely not. Well, I'm glad we got little Holhauser. He's not much to look at, but he's a good man. He ran a perfect race, Mr. President, and he jumped on your coattails and never turned loose. Yeah, but I just can't understand, Harry. Isn't it really really necessary to build a new party? I mean, just being by candidate. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The word Republican is anathemized. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I already told a couple of press guys yesterday that were off the record things. One of them's going to be on Thursday in the Star. I said, you guys you're interpreting this. They're all said it's really not a very admirable performance on the part of the liberal press. I said, you are now blaming McGovern's tactics for losing this. I said, his tactics didn't lose it. His issues lost it. I said, he lost the election the day of the nomination. Sure, Eagleton hurt him some and the $1,000 thing, but I said, you want to remember, he stood for busing, he stood for amnesty, he stood for acid, he stood for bigger welfare, and all of you stood for that. And I said, now, because you see that going down the tube, he says, it isn't that we were wrong, it was that he was wrong, right? His tactics. Now, as a matter of fact, and I said, now you take the South. You're going to try to write this as if this was a question of race. I said, hell, it's not a question of race. South. I said, it's a question of patriotism. Right. It's a question of moral values. They just thought this fellow had the wrong kind of people. Don't you agree? Exactly, Mr. President. Let me tell you what I think. In the South, my God, and they say that we have no real enthusiasm in the South. Christ, if they'd been there in North Carolina, Oklahoma, Georgia. 70% is enthusiasm. Yeah. That's what the average. They say the vote was low. Of course, as a matter of fact, Harry, have you ever seen the vote be very high when it's a landslide? No, sir. Huh? No, sir. Mr. President, the thing that did you the most good was what I've been calling the triple play. Peking, dropping those mines in Haiphong Harbor and Moscow. Yeah, right. I ran that everywhere in the country. The triple play, right? Triple play. Right. And that was the most brilliant. The think he was about the worst candidate, Harry.
Yes, sir. Yes.
What he said, I think we're not going to let them get away with that. Even last night, he started out nicely in his thing, but then proceeded to shut his jaw out and said he wasn't going to support, this or that. Did you notice that?
Yes, sir.
What did you think of that? Well, as far as grace, I came on, I thought quite graceful to the son of a bitch.
Right, sir. And Mr. President, he came across to the people that way.
Did he?
Yes, sir. When he made that statement, he wasn't going to support you if you were elected and so forth. That hurt. But he came across with negative.
Yeah. Now it's very important, it seems to me, for us to try to keep that southern base.
Yes, sir.
I mean, for me to end. But by doing it, we're going to have to do it by inviting our Democratic friends in, aren't we, Harry?
Yes, sir.
You can't do it by just going with those small, well, except in the border states.
Right.
North Carolina's beginning. But take Virginia. Virginia, Christ, it's a coalition of Democrats and Republicans, Virginia, isn't it?
Right. Mr. President.
But Georgia, for example, South Carolina, hell, you can't just run as a straight-out Republican.
No, sir.
Do you agree?
I agree. In fact, you see, we picked up a House seat in South Carolina. That farmer I brought you in here one day.
Yeah.
And you shook his hand. He was a superior candidate, and he grabbed onto you, and that's what did it, by the skin of his teeth. But we've got to get better candidates, and we've got to do something about the National Republican Party, Mr. President. We've got
The National Republican Party is a damn disaster here, isn't it?
Yes, sir. I can tell you. No
Spent $11 million in the off year, 71, and what the hell have they got to show for it?
Right.
And all they do is whine because they say, I don't come into more states. And yet, if I had gone to more states, that could have mobilized more of our Democratic friends, too.
Yes, sir. But you did it in the end by going to those several states. They can't gripe.
Well, I did 6.
And Mr. President, also...
And the ones they wanted.
Right. Also,
you can't expect me. Nobody asked me to go to Maine.
Right.
Well, let's see. Allen asked me to go to Colorado, but God almighty, I couldn't believe. I knew we were carrying Colorado 65%. How in the hell could Allen lose? Part of his problem was he just ain't much of a candidate anymore. That's right. What do you think? Allen's always whining. If you could get me the latest in California, I'd like to have the latest return there.
Yes, sir.
And the latest popular vote. And what is the latest popular? The latest I've got is 5 o'clock in the morning here on the news summary. You having later than that?
We're about 43 to 44 million. But it's 61, but they don't say 61 what percentage. It's between 61 and 62.
Yeah. But total 43. Johnson got what? 43, wasn't it? Of course, it was a hell of a lot lower registration.
Yes.
What do you attribute the lower vote this year than 64 to?
I think some of those Democrats didn't come out. I'm trying to check in the South. I think some of the blacks didn't come out in the South. I think that this fellow didn't stir them up.
That could be.
And
also another possibility is that some of our people just thought, well, what the hell we're in.
Right.
Don't you think?
Right.
But nevertheless, nobody here now is going to make one goddamn, except for the commentators, about the low vote. There wasn't apathy among our people. Did you think so?
No, sir. No, sir. I never ran into that as I went around the country.
That was Connolly's point. Connolly says there's
Mr. President, one other point about we got out there to surrogates. I know I did. And went in these congressional districts, and I read letters of endorsement from you for every one of these races. So, I mean, we did something for these people.
Well, not only that, let me say, we gave a letter of endorsement to everyone. I had a picture taken with everyone.
Right.
To all the Senate candidates, we had television clips made for all of them. I did radio tapes for all the Senate candidates.
Right.
And I made telephone calls to them. Now, by golly, now what in the hell more can you do?
That information should really be given out. We just have to make sure that's out.
Well, how did you do your best to get that out? Well,
right.
Get a hold of Haldeman. I told him to pass that around. Maybe they didn't do it. Did you do that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Right.
President Nixon and Republican presidential strategist Harry Dent from November 8, 1972. President Nixon became the first Republican to sweep the South, receiving nearly 18 million more votes than McGovern. President Nixon still holds the record as having achieved the widest popular vote margin in any presidential election. In the next call from November 18, 1972, President Nixon strategizes over White House staffing changes with Bob Haldeman. As this call begins, the two men talk about Secretary of State William Rogers and his preference to stay on in the administration.
Yes, sir. What's the report? Well, I just got back. Spent an hour and a half with him. Right. And he's going to stay on. He completely accepts all of the conditions, understands them, that we'll go ahead with reorganization, that you will make the decision on all appointments, as we're doing in all departments, that promotions in the Foreign Service and any activity there has got to be based on loyalty, and I hit the Yost thing hard. Good. That we've got to shift to working within the system, that we've got to get out of the president going through the agonizing role of being the referee and all this stuff, and that you've got to agree to work that out, and it's got to be done. And he thought that, and that we have a clear understanding that the departure is June 1st or sooner. And he said absolutely. He said, I just took June 1st out of the air, and it may be that it'd be much better to go in May or even April, but in any event, he said, I feel strongly I should go by June 1st because I don't want to get started on the European Security Conference, because the new secretary should do that. Right. And also, it doesn't give the new secretary the thing we got to think. We can't ask a guy to take over in the job for, he's got to have his 4 years. That's the other thing. Yeah. Well, he's I think, after thinking it all over, I hit him pretty hard on all the stuff. I said that it was kind of a surprise to go through the thing that we went through there, because the understanding, the thought that you had, and I certainly had, was that Bill intended to leave. Right. That there was no intention of anybody firing him. It was a matter of confirming what we thought was the plan. And he said, well, I did. It's not a question of that at all. It's just timing. Right. Okay. And I didn't want to look like I was being fired. Right. And then he goes into all his stuff of how, the usual, same stuff he went through with you, the loyal Foreign Service, all of that. But you cracked him on Yost. I sure did. And, of course, he doesn't blame it. He mitigates it by that whole Moynihan flap and all, when he was friends at Yost. Yeah, but Yost, if he had gone on the right grounds, he wouldn't have done this. No, but Yost was disloyal before that. Well, and I said, Bill, the guy didn't change his thinking as a result of that. And, that probably aggravated the situation, but it didn't create it. Good. And he agreed with that. All right. Well, I hit him hard on how rough it had been for you in some of these things where you've had to, on top of making the decisions and all, to get into a refereeing of a sparring match between him and Henry, and that you just couldn't perpetuate something that's going to work that way. And he came back with I understand that, but it's hard to work with Henry because he lies all the time, which is true. And Henry admits that. Yeah. And right. Then he went through some specific names and ideas and stuff. But he's incidentally, I've sort of in my own mind come around to the view that we'll definitely make the shift from to put a few of Laird's idea of putting E.G.W. Richardson over to defense, and we're going to have to really, sell that to the committees on that. But I don't think they can object too much to that. Well, especially with Clemens there. Right. Right. And putting Cap on the other one. I think Cap is going to really enjoy the other one. H.E.W. For sure. Yeah. And he's more of my view. That's all there is to it. And on defense, I'll run the damn thing.
From November 18, 1972, a call between President Nixon and his chief of staff, Bob Haldeman. According to the University of Virginia Miller Center researcher Ken Hughes, 1972 was, quote, the best year of his political life. His diplomatic opening to China reached fruition with a widely televised trip to Beijing. Détente bore fruit with the signing of the Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty and a summit in Moscow. And Nixon's decision to bomb North Vietnam and mine Haiphong Harbor to stop a communist offensive proved highly popular. When Henry Kissinger announced shortly before the election that he had resolved most major negotiating issues with North Vietnam and that therefore peace is at hand, it was only icing on the cake. During most of this outwardly triumphant year, however, a scandal of epic proportions was quietly growing within the administration. And that was, of course, Watergate. Next time on Presidential Recordings, the nomination of Chief Justice Warren Burger. The Burger Court dealt with everything from abortion to capital punishment to pornography, and it most likely ended Richard Nixon's stay in the White House in 1974. We thank NixonTapes.org, the Miller Center at the University of Virginia, and the Richard Nixon Presidential Library and Museum. Remember to follow Presidential Recordings so you never miss an episode.